The world did not expect this car. In 1961, the automotive world was calm, predictable, and conservative. Cars were machines, not emotions, not art. And then Jaguar arrived. Not with noise, not with arrogance, but with a shape that stopped time. This was the Jaguar E-Type. To understand why this car mattered, you must understand the world it was born into. Post-war, Britain was rebuilding. Industry was recovering. Confidence was fragile. Jaguar was not a luxury giant. It was a company fighting for identity. But Jaguar had one weapon: racing. At Le Mans, Jaguar had proven itself, winning against Ferrari through intelligence, not money. Those victories shaped a belief: if we can win on track, we can change the road. The E-Type was not born in a design studio. It was born from racing experience. From the D-Type, a car that dominated endurance racing. Engineers did not chase beauty. They chased efficiency. And accidentally, they created one of the most beautiful objects ever made. When the Jaguar E-Type was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show in 1961, something unprecedented happened. Journalists abandoned their schedules. Crowds gathered. Traffic outside the show stopped. People did not ask how fast it was. They asked if it was real. The car looked futuristic. Long bonnet, low roof, flowing curves. Nothing like it existed. Even Enzo Ferrari acknowledged it, calling it the most beautiful car ever made. That moment alone sealed its place in history. But beauty was only half the story. Underneath that shape was real performance. A straight-six engine, independent rear suspension, disc brakes. At a time when competitors charged fortunes, Jaguar offered Ferrari-level performance at half the price. This was revolutionary. The E-Type was not built for kings. It was built for dreamers. For the first time, an ordinary, successful person could own something extraordinary. That changed everything. Driving the E-Type was an experience. The engine was smooth, the steering alive, the road always present. It was fast, but not violent. It did not scare you. It invited you. In the 1960s, the E-Type became more than a car. It became culture. Actors, musicians, artists, they did not buy it for speed. They bought it for identity. Steve McQueen admired it. Frank Sinatra owned one. Brigitte Bardot was photographed beside it. The E-Type was freedom on four wheels. Unlike many legends, the E-Type did not dominate racing headlines. It dominated hearts. It appeared in films, in magazines, in photographs that defined an era. The car symbolized optimism, elegance, and confidence. As the years passed, the world began to change. In the late 1960s, regulations tightened. Safety standards evolved. Jaguar adapted the E-Type. Series 2 arrived. Still beautiful, but softened. Still admired, but no longer shocking. By the early 1970s, the world was different. Oil crises, economic uncertainty, changing priorities. Performance cars became targets. Luxury became questioned. Jaguar introduced the V12, more power, more refinement. But the raw magic of the original had begun to fade. In the 1970s, the E-Type quietly exited production. No dramatic farewell. No announcement of greatness. It simply disappeared. At the time, few noticed. Legends are rarely recognized immediately. In the 1980s, something strange happened. Collectors began to look back. They remembered the shape, the feeling, the era. Cars from the 1960s started gaining value. The E-Type returned, not as transportation, but as memory. In the 1990s, restoration culture grew. Workshops specialized. Parts were reproduced. Stories were shared. The E-Type became a reference point. Designers studied it. Historians praised it. Museums displayed it as art. By the 2000s, the Jaguar E-Type was no longer just a classic. It was a benchmark. Whenever a new sports car was launched, journalists asked the same question. Is it as beautiful as the E-Type? The answer was almost always no. In the 2010s, the world became digital. Screens replaced gauges. Software replaced sensation. Cars became faster, but less personal. And suddenly, the E-Type felt more relevant than ever. People no longer wanted perfection. They wanted feeling. They wanted connection. The E-Type offered that. No filters, no algorithms, just steel, leather, fuel, and motion. Today, the Jaguar E-Type sits in museums, including the Museum of Modern Art in New York, not as machinery, but as sculpture. That distinction matters. Few cars cross that boundary. So why does the Jaguar E-Type endure? Because it represents a perfect moment, a time when engineering trusted instinct, when design served emotion, when cars were expressions of freedom. Modern cars are impressive, but the E-Type is unforgettable. It does not chase relevance. It defines it. As decades pass and the automotive world shifts towards silence and autonomy, the Jaguar E-Type remains a reminder. Progress can improve speed, but it cannot replace soul. The E-Type was not built to be a legend. It was built to move people, and in doing so, it became timeless. Some cars change technology. Some change industries, but a rare few change culture. The Jaguar E-Type is one of them. If the Ferrari 250 GTO represents victory, the Jaguar E-Type represents beauty, and beauty, when honest, never fades. This was not just a car. It was a statement. And statements like this echo forever. When people talk about legendary cars, they often talk about speed numbers, horsepower, top speed. But the Jaguar E-Type was never about numbers. It was about feeling. That feeling started before the engine even turned. You approached the car and noticed how low it sat, how long the bonnet stretched ahead, how the curves flowed without interruption. Nothing felt aggressive. Nothing felt forced. It felt natural, almost alive. Opening the door was different too. The cabin wrapped around the driver. Simple, focused, purposeful. No screens, no distractions, just you, the car, and the road. When the engine started, it did not explode into noise. It settled into a confident rhythm. Smooth, controlled, refined. Jaguar engineers believed performance should feel effortless, and that philosophy shaped the E-Type. Driving the E-Type was never about domination. It was about harmony. The steering communicated every texture of the road. The suspension absorbed imperfections without isolating you. You felt involved, engaged, present. This was driving as conversation, not command. In the 1960s, this feeling was revolutionary. Most performance cars were raw and demanding. They required compromise. The E-Type offered excitement without punishment. That balance changed expectations forever. Designers across the world took notice. Italian studios, German engineers, American manufacturers, all studied the E-Type not to copy it, but to understand why it worked. The secret was proportion. Nothing was exaggerated. Nothing was unnecessary. Every line served airflow. Every curve served balance. Beauty emerged from function, not marketing. This is why the E-Type aged gracefully. It did not chase trends. Trends fade. Proportion does not. As the 1960s progressed, the E-Type evolved. Subtle changes, improved cooling, updated lighting, but Jaguar resisted radical redesign. They understood something rare. When something works, do not interfere. The world, however, did not stand still. Safety regulations increased. Emissions rules tightened. The innocence of early motoring began to disappear. Jaguar had to respond. In the 1970s, the E-Type gained weight, gained complexity. The V12 brought smooth power, but also changed the character. The car became more of a grand tourer, less of a lightweight sports machine. Some purists complained, but others appreciated the refinement. This division is important. It shows how the E-Type adapted without losing identity, even softened. It remained unmistakable. When production ended, Jaguar did not celebrate. They simply moved on. At the time, no one predicted what would happen next. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, classic car enthusiasm began to grow. People who grew up seeing the E-Type now had the means to buy one, and they wanted to reclaim that feeling. Restoration became an act of preservation, not just of metal, but of memory. Garages turned into workshops. Stories were exchanged. Communities formed. The E-Type was no longer transport. It was heritage. In the 1980s, prices began to rise slowly, not dramatically, not speculatively. Organically, people bought them to drive, not to flip. That matters. By the 1990s, awareness spread. Automotive historians began ranking the greatest designs. The E-Type appeared again and again, not because of nostalgia, but because of consistency. It never dropped out of conversation. Design schools studied it. Museums displayed it. Artists referenced it. Few machines received that treatment. In the 2000s, Jaguar attempted to capture the spirit again. Concept cars, design cues, modern interpretations. But the original remained untouchable because the world had changed. The E-Type was born without committees, without digital validation, without global focus groups. It was created by belief. That cannot be recreated. In the 2010s, the contrast became sharper. Modern cars grew faster than ever, yet felt distant. Touchscreens replaced tactility. Assistance replaced skill. And suddenly, people looked back. The E-Type represented freedom, responsibility, and connection. It asked something from the driver and gave something back. Collectors now spoke of the car emotionally, not as investment, but as experience. The best examples were driven, not hidden, because the E-Type rewards motion. Unlike ultra-rare hypercars, the E-Type remains accessible, not cheap, but reachable. That accessibility keeps the legend alive. When you see one today, it does not intimidate. It invites. It does not say, "Look at me." It says, "Come closer." This approachability is rare. Most legends feel distant. The E-Type feels human. As the automotive industry moves towards silence, the E-Type reminds us sound was once part of identity. Mechanical feedback was once essential. Driving was once participation. One day, roads may no longer require drivers. Cars may no longer need steering wheels. But stories like this will endure. Because the Jaguar E-Type was not built for a future. It was built for a moment. And moments, when honest, become timeless. If the Ferrari 250 GTO is about victory and dominance, the Jaguar E-Type is about expression and beauty. Together, they define the soul of motoring. And that is why, even as decades pass, the Jaguar E-Type remains not frozen in time, but alive in memory.